Hi, my name is Drew. I'm a sociologist.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a media production specialist.
And this is Everyone Should Read.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be breaking down books, sonnets, plays, short stories, essays, all of the stories and titles that you've heard of, that you might have been assigned in school, that you might not have actually read.
Probably haven't read. Maybe you started reading it, maybe it went up in smoke, maybe you got it for your book club and you didn't finish it. Maybe you didn't understand what all the hype was about.
Yeah. One of my favorite examples is that everyone knows how to kill Dracula, but most people haven't read the book.
Yeah, and there it is. There it is. Why do we know how to kill vampires?
Circle back to episode 1 if you would like to hear all about Dracula. But today's
a fun one.
Today is so fun. I am going to get on a soapbox and I'm not going to come down.
I'm ready for you to get on this soapbox. This is yet another episode in our Gothic literature season.
We are doing Gothic Romanticism.
I'm so excited. Okay.
Something that the soapbox begins here, guys. Get ready.
Get onto it.
Romanticism and romance are not the same thing at all.
No, they are not. And that just gets so lost. I think that gets so lost.
And every interpretation of the story that I'm bringing you today does it wrong because they hear romantic and they think romance, and the story is not a romance. People are in love. Tragically.
There is love involved.
There's also a lot of horrific things involved.
Yeah, so romanticism, I think all Gothic literature is romanticism. Not all romanticism is Gothic, but in this case, we're doing Gothic romanticism, which is super exciting.
We are leaning heavy into both themes today.
100%.
People are being haunted.
Haunted by themselves, by thoughts and narrative.
By the narrative. People are haunting the narrative. The narrative is haunting them.
I know. To imagine haunting the narrative and being haunted back.
Oh, I know. And I have the most unreliable of narrators of all time.
Which is haunting, one might say. I think one of the things that I want to establish sort of early on is that Romanticism is a response to the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment. It is the turning away from the idea of the Enlightenment and the idea of categorizing the world and sort of everything it bred, the sort of scramble for Africa and the divvying up the new world and all of these things. And also just the idea that, like, we are conquerors, nature is to be conquered. Romanticism reemerges and says, what if everything isn't so black and white? What if romanticism is like the advocacy for nuance and whimsy?
It's also the gray area of morality.
Everywhere there is gray, absolutely.
And we are going to have so much fun today because our stories are brought to you by sisters. Shout out to the whole Bronte family.
Absolutely.
You have Charlotte Bronte. I have Emily Bronte. They published under Kerr and Ellis Bell. And interestingly enough, the book that I wrote was picked up by the publisher first, but your book was published first.
The one, the only Jane Eyre.
Yes, and I am reading Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, which was published the year before she died of tuberculosis.
Really?
Someone tag John Green in the comments, please, because everything is tuberculosis.
I have not read that. Is that a book? That's a book.
It's good.
I'm gonna read that.
It's
okay,
a good book.
That's on the list. It's also on the list.
Yes.
Oh, it grows.
It grows and grows. But no, everything is tuberculosis. And in true older sister fashion, I have to call out Charlotte right now.
Do it.
Because Emily dies the year after her book is published, and 2 years later, her older sister Charlotte publishes her edit of the book. Which is like the most older sister nonsense.
Absolutely, it is. What
I've
do you
ever
mean you're
heard.
editing my book posthumously? Like, what are you doing? Oh, I'd be furious.
Yes. So there is the 1847 edition, which is the Emily Bronte edition. And then there's the 1850 Charlotte Bronte edition.
And both were preserved, which I appreciate.
Yes. And these are some of the best preserved texts of what they are from the time. And we're so lucky to have them because the Brontes lived in the moors the same way that, at least in Wuthering Heights, the characters do. And unlike the books that we have explored previously, where the world around them is vast and fast-paced and ever-moving, and the characters are grappling with the changing of the world, the characters in Wuthering Heights exist within like a 4-mile radius.
There's a very internal character
and the like
to these
10
stories.
people that they've known their whole lives, and that's it.
And the sisters share this in both of their texts. That really like interesting internal lens. Yeah.
The sisters, their mother died early. Their two older sisters died early. They were raised by their aunt. They were sent off to school, hated it, came back. They were trained to become governesses, left, became governesses, hated that, came back. So much of who they are as people, as writers, as storytellers, exists in that same narrative of, I just really want to be at home. I would like to be where it is cozy and safe, and I know everyone and everyone knows me. But in doing so, you have a lack of growth if no one expects you to change because they expect you to be who you are and who they know you to be.
Right.
And I think that is really highlighted in Wuthering Heights, which we will get into.
I think, I'm going to preface myself by saying Virginia Woolf is one of my partner's favorite authors.
If you know Drew in real life, Virginia Woolf comes up at minimum once a day.
I have developed a newfound appreciation for Virginia Woolf through my appreciation for the love of my life.
And we love that for you.
And one of the things that I never appreciated with Virginia Woolf that I have come to appreciate a great deal and identify in other writers is her focus on like stream of consciousness, like internal world of her characters. I think that's so rich. And I see that in contemporary novels now, and I develop a newfound appreciation for that as well. But I obviously see that here, and it's so great reading Jane Eyre and like this version of writing like the rich internal world, and that this clearly would have inspired Virginia Woolf, who was also a prolific English feminist writer. I just love to see the through line. I love to see when you can tell who a writer's inspirations and heroes were, who they studied in order to devise their own voice. I think that's really, really fun, and I really appreciated that reading Jane Eyre. And the Bronte sisters, I mean, they're really, really good at what they do, and their romanticism, their use of it.
Yes, it's so fun. We have some really sort of crazy stories to tell, and we want to get into the lessons learned and the takeaway and the sociological impacts and pop culture impacts more quickly than we do in some of the other episodes because these books are so dense and there's so much. My story takes place over decades. So we're going to give really brief overviews of sort of like the cast of characters, what to expect.
Right.
Try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. It's not a spoiler to say that a lot of people die in my book. It was written by a woman dying of tuberculosis. Right. It is ever present to the point where I was Googling like symptoms of tuberculosis. What is a head fever? What does it mean to just be sickly in the 1840s? Why would someone stop eating? What is going on here?
Yes, the wasting disease.
The wasting
Their
disease.
humors are unbalanced. Whatever.
What is going on? Why is everyone just unwell? But it turns out if you're written by a woman dying of tuberculosis, then that's going to be pervasive in your story.
Illness and internal grief. Who knew?
Yeah.
Comes across
So
in
not
the
a spoiler to
today.
say that a lot of people die in my story.
Yeah.
It will be a spoiler if you have not encountered this story in any capacity and then go see the upcoming Wuthering Heights film that is coming out that I already have issues with, but that's for like 5 minutes from now.
Yeah, literally like spare no moments. Tell me about this book. Tell me about your experience with this book. How do you feel about it? Talk to me about Wuthering Heights.
Okay, so my first encounter with Wuthering Heights, when my mother was 19, she went to go see a screening of the 1939 Laurence Olivier film adaptation with her mother. And my mother fell in love with this story. She did not fall in love with the story that is in this book. Oh. And it's so important to understand that the romance versus romantic concepts are so different. One of the inherent tenets of a romance story is that like people are in love and good things happen. And like now in modern day romance, one of the tenets is that it has to end happily.
Yeah.
Which I love because if I am looking for something to bring me out of a doom and gloom sort of attitude or like something to take me away from the current world and the way it exists.
Yes.
If I am looking for escapism, I love a happily ever after. I love knowing that like good things are going to happen in this story. That's important to me if I as a reader, as a consumer of media of any kind, am looking for escapism, knowing that it doesn't end with everyone dying is really nice.
Yeah. Yes.
That helps. Sometimes I look for a darker sense of humor, or I look for something where I can, expand my vocabulary or expand my worldview.
Yeah.
Wuthering Heights is not a romance.
No, it is romantic in the sense that it employs romanticism. But like romanticism is a very heavy literary style, and it draws, specifically Gothic romanticism, but romanticism in general draws on so many tools. There are like a lot of romantic tools.
Yes, and the number one tool that we have is an unreliable narrator narrating to another unreliable narrator. Crazy balance of you can't trust anyone saying anything because everything is hearsay. Everything is second or third hand in this story. And the character telling the majority of the story, I believe, is the villain. I don't want to say antagonist. I could. But she actively works against so many of the characters, and so many bad things that happen to each of the characters are because the woman who is narrating the story made deliberate decisions, but cast herself in a positive light. And so that like what she did was actually probably so much worse, because no one is going to tell a story about themselves in which they are not the best version of themselves.
And the story still makes her look
And
awful.
this story still makes her look like a bad guy.
Okay.
Which is crazy. So the book starts off with Mr. Lockwood. He comes in, he's renting Thrushcross Grange. Ooh.
Crazy. Say that like 2 times fast.
I can't. I simply cannot. He's renting it from a man named Heathcliff.
Okay.
He goes up on day 1. He's like, Heathcliff, thank you so much. I am your new tenant. And Heathcliff is like, great. Thank you for paying the money. Do not come back and bother me ever again. Mr. Lockwood is like, I hear you. And I will be back tomorrow for tea.
Excellent. Love that charm. I tell you what.
Shows up the next day, and everyone who's in the house is like, who are you? Why are you here? We don't want strangers. We don't want interlopers. And then a storm hits and he's trapped there, and everyone's like, you're the worst. And he's like, everyone's treating me so poorly and I can't understand why. And it's like, my guy, you were not invited.
Like, you invited yourself.
You showed up and now you are trapped in their home.
It's giving very much SpongeBob in Squidward's house.
Yeah. Yes. But also, there's so much going on interpersonally with all of these characters. There's so much drama going on, and you have shown up at a terrible time, and now you're trapped in this house. Excellent. And they're like, okay, well, we're just going to put you in this room until the storm is over so we can all fight with one another without you interfering with the interpersonal drama of a family that you know nothing and understand nothing about. While he's in this room, he starts reading through books and discovers that some of these books, the margins, are like diary entries of a little girl. So he immediately starts reading the diary entries of a little girl.
He's like,
And then falls asleep and is haunted by this little girl, who is now this adult woman banging on the door, begging to be let in. He wakes up screaming. Heathcliff comes in. He's like, what now?
Like, what? You're in my house. Like, please just go to sleep.
You can't have a single moment of peace in this house. What do you want? And the guy's like, this woman, she calls herself Catherine Linton. She's banging on the door. She says she's trying to be let in. She's saying she's been locked out for 20 years and she just wants to be let in. And Heathcliff's like, get out of my house. Get out of my house.
Leave.
Yeah, leave right now. Lockwood's like, but there's still a storm. I don't care. Get out.
Okay.
Heathcliff then, because Lockwood does not leave, he just goes out into the hallway, sees Heathcliff throw open the windows, and he's like, Kathy, come in. I'm waiting for you. Haunt me. Come in. And this is the beginning of our story.
Oh, crazy.
Crazy. So we start off
this is why one
with a nosy neighbor.
I was just going to say, always value a nosy neighbor.
Yes.
Always value a nosy neighbor.
A nosy neighbor, a dysfunctional family, and a ghost.
And baby, that's Gothic romanticism. There it is.
Here we
that's
are
Those
kicking off a long story. It's not quick, but it is dramatic.
That's how you do it.
Yes.
That's the purest version. If you could pull an espresso shot of Gothic romanticism, it would be dysfunctional family, nosy neighbor, and a ghost. Absolutely.
Starting off strong.
Yes.
So he goes back to his own place and he sees the caretaker, the matron of the home, and he's like, So what's up with the landlord? And this woman, Nelly, is like, well, I really shouldn't say. And he's like, shouldn't you? And then this woman tells the entire story of these people for like 40 years.
She's just like, I really shouldn't. She's pouring tea into the glass.
Literally sits down with some tea. And every time she stops and she's like, well, should I go on? And Lockwood's like, absolutely.
Like, I am yeah, that's great.
This is a gossip session.
Also inherently Gothic, romantic.
Yes.
Like hearsay.
Hearsay. It starts off when Nelly is 14.
Okay. Wow.
She's like, let me take you all the way back to the beginning.
It begins with my childhood.
And it does. Because Nelly is a child in the home where her mother is an employee. Her mother is actually never mentioned outside of the fact that her mother worked there at some point.
Okay.
We don't know what happened to the mother, where the mother went. Anyway, Nelly is about 14 at the beginning of the story. We know this because she and the oldest son of the family, Hindley, are the same age. We don't know that they're the same age until like well into like 3/4 of the way through the book. We just know that she's also there.
Okay.
In my mind, she was much older until I got to that point where I was like, what do you mean you're only 27?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're the same age as everyone else? And I had to wind back and reread the story through the lens of it happening to a young girl and not like a young adult. Her behavior is not better for that amount of grace that she is left with. It does justify a couple things when it turns out she's like only 21 when she's like does some really horrible things and not like in her mid-30s like I thought she was.
Yeah.
But her behavior is largely inexcusable.
No, I mean, based on,
It's crazy.
Go on.
Okay, so there's a family that she works for called the Earnshaws. They own a home called Wuthering Heights. This whole story is about landed gentry. It's very important to understand. There are different societal structures. This is the English countryside. It's like West Yorkshire. It's in the moors. It is out there. The nearest neighbors to the Wuthering Heights property is Thrushcross Grange, and it's 4 miles away. And then from there, you still have to like take horses and whatever into town.
Okay.
Hardly anyone ever goes into town in this entire story. And that is part of the problem. I think if they had a larger expanse of network of friends and people in their lives, a lot of these stories wouldn't have happened. These people, if they had lived in a city, none of this would have happened because they would have been exposed to so many more people and ideas and concepts.
Just early on.
The very beginning of the story, Earnshaw, Mr. Earnshaw, goes to the city for some work thing, and he comes back with a little boy. The little boy is of unknown origin, and Emily Bronte refers to him as a gypsy. Now, I want to break that down a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Because we, as a modern-day society, apply modern-day interpretations on a lot of words. And now, if someone says gypsy, someone would usually autocorrect and say, like, Romani. That's not necessarily accurate in this case. So Romani are people, historically nomadic people from Romania. And keep in mind that this story takes place in England. There are another type of gypsy people who live in and around the UK who now refer to themselves as travelers. And those two groups of people are not necessarily all that related.
Yeah.
It was a word used to describe gypsy people who were nomadic. They were on the outsides and outskirts of society, and they were different. They were other, and something that is very important, cannot stress the level of importance, they were brown.
So we touched on this a little bit.
For like an hour this morning.
The
conversation got heated and devolved, but it's fine.
But in a really great way.
In a really beautiful way.
But we talked on it, and we talked specifically kind of about the role of Edward Said's Orientalism. I said, I literally said this morning, I was like, I'm going to have to bring up Edward Said. I have no choice.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is an important conversation to have because it sets up the rest of the story.
Right. So exactly. So one of the things that Edward Said sort of dictates in the construction of Orientalism is that the Orient is used as what we call in sociology a negative reference group it was sort of the precursor to what we think of as racism, but also obviously the precursor to Eurocentrism. And a negative reference group is this sort of idea that I know what I am based on what I am not. I can look
Mhm.
at you and I can say, I am not you, you are not me, I have these things, you do not have these things because you are not me. And that's how I construct my identity. And that's really, really important because that obviously evolves in many ways. But also, one of the sort of characteristics of Orientalism is it is non-specific. You know, it
Mhm.
does not attach itself to meaningful definitions of other
No.
people. It is just a kind of general lumping in of people, a smoothing over of their nuance,
And
uh,
an othering,
and an othering.
which is very Gothic.
And it's for the purpose of propping one's own self up.
Mhm.
And so, in the case of this word occurring in Wuthering Heights, it's used to reference someone who we don't know who they are, we don't know where they're from, we know they're brown, we know they're not English.
Mhm. Well, he's English, but
Well,
he's
like
not
English.
English the way that the rest of the cast of characters view themselves as English.
Right.
And this is something that we also talked about when we were going through Frankenstein and talking about Homie.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you who haven't listened to our Frankenstein and Dracula episode, Homie is our word for the creature or the monster. It comes from homunculus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's homey.
He's
Actually a sweet pea. So maybe go listen to that episode because I have strong feelings about him.
As I do now. And I think anytime you read about a character who is so othered to the point that it changes not just the narrative, but who this character is and who they become,
Yes.
you feel for them. Even if ultimately the character does monstrous things,
Mhm.
you can see who they might have become if they were treated fairly.
Yeah, if they were not othered in this way so
Yes.
drastically, so
And
dramatically.
the not even underlying, but like very obvious red neon sign racism callouts in Wuthering Heights is so crucial to the plot and the structure that when all of the film adaptations that have happened that are romance rather than romantic
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
do not cast a brown person as Heathcliff, they undermine the entire story.
We lose a great deal of what she was saying.
Because here's the thing. Heathcliff is brown.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have
Brown in 1847, mind you.
in the English countryside.
So brown.
Yes. Yes. And he is othered so extremely that it is a crux of the plot.
Right.
And so when you take the horrific level of racism and mistreatment away,
Mm-hmm.
there is actually not a need for most of the plot in the story.
So the driving factors become nebulous.
Yes.
When-
and so there
yeah.
is no conflict in the romance if they can't be together because he's brown.
And if I feel like we could take that a step further and sort of say people tend to look at Wuthering Heights as this like story about brooding people who brood.
And I mean, there is that.
There's a great deal of that, but like in the case of
But it's also trauma.
well, yeah,
and
exactly.
intergenerational trauma, family trauma, and poor decisions. And racism.
And like
heavy on the racism.
So if we've got trauma and racism, obviously there's going to be some brooding.
Yes.
But if you ignore
Yes.
the racial element, then it just seems like a character likes to be haunted for the sake of being haunted.
Yes. He's not moody for no reason. He's moody because he's being physically assaulted for being brown.
Think Prince Zuko, kind of. Not entirely, but you know, got his eye burned. Got his eye burned and now he's moody.
I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna like stand that comparison.
It kind of works. I don't know.
But it does make for a character that you feel for
Right.
and you love because you see this sort of kicked puppy character that you want to protect.
Mhm.
And you want to protect this character for so long that you will excuse a lot of really horrible things that this character goes on to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heathcliff is not a good guy. He starts off as not a bad guy.
Mhm.
And that is the crux of the problem. So we get back to Nelly telling this story.
Mhm.
Nelly is about 14.
Mhm.
There is Hindley, who is the same age as her, and he is the oldest sibling in this house. And then his younger sister, Catherine, or Kathy,
Mhm.
she's 7.
Okay.
Their father brings in Heathcliff, who's this little brown boy that he found on the side of the road. In a similar comparison to Frankenstein, but on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It is not a beautiful dirt baby girl. It is this poor little boy who was not going to make it if Mr. Earnshaw didn't take him in.
Mm-hmm. I was also thinking about that, like, difference, that dichotomy between those characters.
Crazy how parallel these stories can be sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? I love it. Oh, I love it.
Me too.
And Hindley hates Heathcliff on sight. He's like, my father is going to give all of his attention to this little brown boy instead of me, and I hate that. Kathy likes this little boy who's brown and not me, and I hate it. Mind you, Hindley and Catherine are 7 years apart. Like, a 14-year-old being jealous of a 7-year-old is just embarrassing on every level.
Weird.
And then you add in the element of, like, deeply rooted racism and othering, and it just gets very upsetting.
Yeah.
To the point where Hindley is so abusive of Heathcliff that Mr. Earnshaw sends Hindley away. He's like, you can't live in this house. You are too dangerous and too volatile to the other children who are here.
Goodness.
Hindley goes off to school, doesn't come back until after Mr. Earnshaw dies, and he inherits the place. Because remember, they are landed gentry.
Right.
Hindley inherits everything, and he brings his little wife with him back.
Okay.
He makes Heathcliff move out of his bedroom and up into the drafty old attic.
No,
because he hates him.
Okay.
At this point, Heathcliff and Catherine are like teenagers.
Also, this is an English manor house.
Mm-hmm.
So in
drafty,
all of this space, leave your bedroom, go in the attic.
Yeah.
Where, like, the breeze of the moors. Okay. All right. Just to help. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's, like I said, the racism is, like, deep and staunch and pervasive.
It's, like, in there.
It's really upsetting. Yeah. This is not a book that you just, like, sit down and read all the way through. This is one that you, like, take your time with, because everything is upsetting all the way through.
Yeah.
There are neighbors 4 miles down at aforementioned Thrushcross. I cannot say this.
It's an awful.
Thrushcross Grange. Just
Thrushcross.
They could have named it anything.
Like,
really.
why? This is why nobody takes English seriously.
This is not the only reason. The Linton family lives down there.
Okay.
And Kathy and Heathcliff, who are best friends, they are twin flames. They are, you know, different sides of the same coin. They are obsessed with each other. They love each other. They go nowhere without each other. When the teachers refused to teach Heathcliff because, again, he's brown, Kathy was like, fine, I will teach him myself. And so she came home every single day and taught him the lessons that she learned in school. Like, genuinely, these are two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
They go down to spy on their neighbors, as children do.
Yes.
Kathy gets bit by the dog. Damn. And she's like, Heathcliff, you have to run, because these people are not going to be friendly to you. You have to go home, and you have to tell them what happened to me. This is back in the day when if you get sick, you just, like, stay where you are sick until you get better, because healthcare is so bad.
That, like, if I move you, you will die.
Yeah. So anyway, Kathy spends, like, a couple months at her neighbor's house.
With the Lintons?
With the Lintons.
And they take care of her?
They take care of her. And they are lovely. Where Hindley is volatile and angry, the Lintons are kind and sweet, and they have a level of gentility that Kathy's never experienced before. And she comes home changed by having met these different people. She's like, I could be proper. I could be a lady. And it's like, girl, you are a lady.
Yeah.
You are landed gentry. But because of the wilderness and the craziness that you grow up in, you don't see yourself that way, the way that other people see you.
Near the top of the episode, you said that if they literally just lived in a city with other people.
Yeah. If they were just exposed to more people, a lot of their issues would have gone away. Edward Linton and his little sister Isabella love Kathy. They're like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's so fun. We loved having her in our home. Edward immediately falls in love with Kathy. Of course. She's beautiful. She's also the only girl in the neighborhood. Within, like, 4 miles, literally.
So stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Stunning. Gorgeous. So anyway, Edward starts to romance Kathy.
Okay.
Heathcliff hates this.
Of course.
He's like, no, Kathy and I love each other.
Excuse me. Hi, hello. I'm in love with Kathy.
I'm in love with Kathy. And Kathy's like, I could have everything, actually. But in a way that when she explains it to Nelly, who sets her up for failure once again, it breaks your heart. And it is a famous line that does show up in every adaptation. It is pervasive across media. It is known everywhere. And it is, whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. Kathy is like, Heathcliff and I are one being. We are one entity. Nothing could separate us.
Okay. Sweet.
She's like, Edward has proposed to me. And she's telling Nelly this. Nelly, who knows that Heathcliff is in the room, like laying down, can't be seen by Kathy. Kathy is telling Nelly this. And about halfway through the conversation, because the miscommunication trope is just the worst, my least favorite, and like very effective in this novel, Heathcliff will get up and leave and not hear the rest of what Kathy says.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
He leaves. He doesn't come back for 3 years. Because of course. Of course.
This is that dramatic.
High drama. Yeah, high drama.
It's the stuff I'm always talking about.
Yes, but Kathy is telling Nelly, she's like, Edward's proposed to me and I'm going to say yes. And Nelly's like, well, do you love him? And she's like, I could love him. But like, I know that my future is secure with him, and that's also very important.
I see.
The landed gentry, the women of the landed gentry, their only real option and opportunity in life is to marry and reproduce. That is largely the purpose of a lady.
Yeah.
They are incredibly well educated, but they do not have the opportunities to find employment because that is not their station in life. Kathy has to get married. And she knows and communicates to Nelly, of course, after Heathcliff leaves, that Hindley hates, with like a burning passion, Heathcliff.
Yes.
If she cannot secure her own future, she cannot secure Heathcliff's future.
Right.
She has to go marry someone else who has money so that she can take care of herself and Heathcliff. Heathcliff will not be employable. Heathcliff will never inherit anything.
Absolutely not.
Heathcliff cannot really get a job on his own, and he is so abused in her brother's house that she needs to get them both out. And she sees Edward as that opportunity.
So this is literally a story of like trauma and discrimination and like just hatred and violence and power.
Yes. And once again, none of this would be the case if Heathcliff were not brown. So whenever we cast the white boy of the week as Heathcliff, the story sort of falls apart because why can't your pretty white boy get a job? Why can't he inherit? Why is he facing struggles and animosity?
Well, because in this case,
if the racism isn't there.
Yeah. I mean, in these adaptations, it sounds like literally you spoke earlier about like the sort of comparison between Heathcliff and Elizabeth from Frankenstein.
Yeah.
In the case of these adaptations, he really is just the beautiful dirt baby who was pulled out of that, and it loses a lot of its
and
tact
he is
for that.
So handsome. Everyone who sees him is like, oh my gosh, he is so pretty. They're like, he is distractingly attractive.
Of Heathcliff? Really?
And everyone hates him all the more for it. They're like, there must be something evil about him. There must be something, he is dark, so darkness must reside in him, which is such a hideous, pervasive, racist thing to think.
But how 19th century English.
How very
like how
1847.
And I just must say, the modern day Brits really pride themselves on being post-racial and better than everyone else. And I'm like, that didn't happen, did it? No, it just kind of evolved and took on these really interesting diluted characters. But if this was happening, then like your hands are not washed.
No, they're certainly not clean.
Well, and also, again, this goes back to sort of like this being the foundation of Orientalism and like this sort of negative reference group. It's like, even if it is not as explicit, even if he's not like, being fed to the fields, so to speak. This is still like this very strict cast based on this like loose construction of Eurocentrism. Yeah. Which drives the story, it sounds like.
Heathcliff takes off.
Okay.
Does not come back for 3 years. Kathy waits for years for him to come back. Finally accepts Edward's proposal and marries him like the week before Heathcliff comes home.
God damn it. I see where the romance gets extrapolated and brought to the forefront. But
she's married. She's living on this estate down 4 miles down the hill from her brother. At this point, her brother his wife died in childbirth, which is going to be a pervasive theme, unfortunately, in this story. His son Hareton, Nelly was raising Hareton, but Nelly went with Catherine to become a Linton. Okay. She stays there, and she immediately... Nelly has a similar experience to what Kathy's experience was when Kathy first met the Lintons, where Nelly was like, am I I could be this. Could I be better than everyone else? And Nelly immediately aligns herself with Edward Linton over everyone else. And it's important to understand that she is an employee.
Yeah.
And he is her boss. But there is a level of hero worship that did not exist when she was at Wuthering Heights.
Okay.
That did not exist for any of the Earnshaws. She abandons Hareton immediately. And Nelly's job is to raise all of these children. And she hates them.
No, whose children are these? Are these Kathy and Edward's children? No. Okay.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So Hindley, who was her age, she was like pseudo responsible for raising him.
Okay.
Reminder, he grows up to be a racist, abusive piece of shit.
Excellent.
She is partially responsible for raising Catherine Earnshaw, who then becomes Catherine Linton.
Catherine, who ended up being lovely.
Well,
or not. Okay.
We'll get there.
Damn.
And Heathcliff.
The victim.
For now.
Damn. Oh my goodness.
Listen, I think it's important to understand that hurt people hurt people.
Clearly, I am learning this in real time.
And everyone in this story is a hurt person.
Oh my God. I am so...
No one is innocent of, crime or what is going on here?
We gotta leave this in.
You gotta lean into this story.
I'm just so sad right now. Please go on.
Hurt people hurt people. No one is innocent. Everyone is a victim of their situation and their circumstance to some degree. And almost everyone ends up turning around and hurting someone else. Whether it is intentional or not, whether it is because they don't know better, whether it is because they have decided to choose violence. There's a lot of revenge and retribution in this story. Heathcliff discovers that Kathy has married Edward 3 years after he has left, has sent no word, has not heard from her, but he comes back with a fortune that no one can understand how he got.
Okay. Is this explained?
No,
just plot device?
it's just, he has money. And Hindley, since the death of his wife, has turned to alcoholism and now needs someone to help him cover the lost cost. Heathcliff moves in and starts paying rent to Hindley. Hindley develops a gambling problem, and over the course of the story, ends up mortgaging his entire property to Heathcliff.
Aha, excellent.
Hindley will go on to die. So many people die in this story.
It sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like Heathcliff is friends with the author. That's just what I'm getting.
I mean, yes and no, because he will end up doing some truly heinous crimes over the course of the story.
Okay. All right.
But you do feel bad for him for so much longer than you maybe should.
Okay. I'm sad.
He raises Hareton to be a beast, to just grow up as a little mongrel child, because he believes that it is just after the way that Hindley treated him. But Hareton looks too much like Kathy for Heathcliff to really let him devolve completely. It's crazy. It's a whole thing.
It's weird.
Kathy ends up having a baby. It is important to understand that while reading this, you don't realize she's pregnant until she dies in childbirth.
Kathy? Okay.
Her daughter's named Catherine, who's also called Kathy. There's a point in the story where Heathcliff runs away with Edward's little sister, Isabella. They get married, they have a child, and she names it Linton, which is her maiden name, last name Heathcliff. So we end up with so many characters.
My eyes are narrowed.
With all of the same names. Eventually, Kathy Linton, who is the daughter of Edward and Catherine, marries through force. She's kidnapped by Heathcliff and forced to marry Linton Heathcliff.
Okay.
So that he can have her property. Her father's dying. Her mother's already dead. Her father is dying. Her cousin is supposed to inherit the property. Actually, Heathcliff isn't sure if she or her cousin are going to inherit the property from her father. So he has them marry. And then he has his sickly son. Everyone has tuberculosis, but they didn't really call it tuberculosis back then. Sign the property away to him.
His
So
sickly
then
son.
his sick son. So then Linton Heathcliff, the son of Heathcliff,
Yes.
dies. Heathcliff now owns Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange.
Through
He
a series
owns
of, like-
all of the property of everyone who has ever bullied him, mocked him, abused him.
Mind you, he didn't even really encounter the Lintons, did he?
Oh, he did.
He did.
He did. And Edward hated him just as much.
Oh.
Everyone was racist, except Kathy, the original Kathy.
Who died
Who's
in
now
childbirth.
dad.
Yeah. Okay. So
After Heathcliff comes back and they confess their love to each other, and it's this gorgeous, beautiful, heartbreaking, heartrending moment in which she's like, when you left, you broke my heart, you killed me. He's like, if you say I killed you, then haunt me. Like, truly some of the rawest, most romantic, crazy, out there lines in literature. So I
Truly.
get how adaptations are like, what if we lean into
like, yeah.
the unhinged level of in love these two characters are?
Well, because that one sells more than like, seeding guilt in your audience for watching a story about
Yeah, it
racism.
turns out racism
Does
and
not
abuse
sell. Yeah.
is not what people want to watch so much as two lovers who are held apart by fate, the fate being racism.
And that's the thing, right?
And
like,
that's my
we
problem
always, like,
with the
abstract,
adaptations.
Like, and like the love, they're star-crossed and they came from
They're-
somewhere. Like, stop doing that,
They're
guys.
only star-crossed because of racism.
We literally talked about this earlier too, just like the shaving away of nuance
Mhm.
and like how that's like
Mhm.
dumbed us down in
Mhm.
many ways.
Yeah. Eventually, Kathy the younger, she marries Linton. Linton dies. She does end up falling in love with Hareton. She's married both of her cousins.
Hmm.
Heathcliff also eventually dies. Nelly is telling all of these stories
Wait,
secondhand, and she's been in the room for most of the things because, for propriety's sake, she has to be in the room when other people are there. Kathy can't be left alone with Heathcliff. The other Kathy can't be left alone with Linton or Hareton or anyone. And so Nelly is in the background of all of these stories, but she's also actively acting against the narrative.
This becomes a really
Because she
interesting-
thinks she knows better than people, but she doesn't communicate to people why their decisions are bad. So she makes calls for them. She makes a lot of judgment calls
Mhm.
that damn people because of the choices that she didn't allow them to make themselves.
Mm.
And then she tells the story in a way that she still looks bad, which is crazy to me because she thinks she's doing the right thing.
Right. And like, how can she not look at all of this and like just the havoc she's caused, the
Yeah.
smoking crater of a life?
Well, and then at some point, Heathcliff, who knows that he's dying, confesses to her that like he has dug up Catherine's remains and like lain down and spooned her dead body. That's like been
Oh.
in the ground for like decades.
Mm.
And he's like,
Oh.
I will finally be at peace when I can be with her again. So like I can see where people get the like
Yeah.
enduring love element.
Impossible not to with stuff like that.
Truly, but also this man has kidnapped people. He's dug up bodies. He has bribed ministers and lawyers. He has changed laws and rules. He has robbed his own children. It is crazy.
So I don't know why this keeps happening so many episodes where I'm just like, based on what we've discussed, here is my proposal for an adaptation.
Yes.
But based on what we've discussed,
Yeah.
would love a Wuthering Heights that is a story about how a broken heart and consistent trauma is like a Joker-esque descent into madness.
Oh, you're right there.
Like on the perspective of it like follows
Yes.
him mostly, or even him
Yes.
exclusively,
Yes.
as he becomes awful.
Well, and we don't have a lot of insight into him because Nelly, who from the time he was 7,
Mhm.
treats him as though he is a monster and is always going to be evil.
Mm.
But she's also telling the story looking back. So we don't know how much of it is
Yeah.
her being like, well, I know he's evil now.
Mhm.
So how much am I putting on that story
Yeah.
versus how much did I think that he was always evil?
Mhm.
We have a whole host of unreliable narrators, and it's told there's not much first person going on except for Nelly's own experiences. So we don't have insight into the mind of either of the Cathys or sickly Linton, or Edward, or Isabel, or Heathcliff, Hareton, Hindley.
Yeah, literally unreliable narrator.
Literally any of these other characters whom the story is about. And then there's Nelly, who's been in the back room of the stories happening this whole time.
Which brings up, again, a conversation that keeps coming up in this, I guess because that's just Gothic literature, but like the role of the servant in the room and like being invisible, but also in this case, like orchestrating so much of their lives.
Actively part of the narrative.
Yeah.
But in a way that does more harm than good 9 times out of 10. And you can see so often where she's at when she says that she thought she was doing the right thing or she was trying to do the right thing. Like, she's actively trying to prevent all of these women from running away with these men. And she's right for that. But also she needs to communicate better with her charges. Like, all of the women she's responsible for raising, she ends up being like, well, they turned wicked. And it's like, girl, you are in charge. You're raising this person, and everyone you raise, if they all turn out wicked, something's in the sauce, girl.
And I wonder if that's like intentional on Emily Bronte's part. I'm confusing yours with mine again.
Well, they were raised by the same aunt.
Okay, so I'm wondering, because like this, it's
because your story has an aunt in it as well,
an evil aunt,
and I think this is a good transition. Let's get into
a
little Jane Eyre.
So here's the thing.
Ooh.
So bringing that on over into Jane Eyre, which actually for Jane Eyre, because I think we really know the story, I just want to like quick gloss with the story. It is originally released in 3 separate novels, chapters 1 through 15, and then roughly like 9 or 10 chapters all the way up to, I think, chapter 38 is the last chapter of the story.
She's long.
She's long. She's cute though. And in keeping with what we were saying about sort of like the history of the English writing tradition and how like they learn from each other, as soon as I started reading Jane Eyre, I was like, this is Matilda. This is the story of Matilda. Matilda is like Jane Eyre fan fiction if Jane Eyre were Carrie.
Shout out to Roald Dahl, I guess.
Like, it's really, because it's just like, oh, like here it is, like unreliable authority figures. And also like there's this, because her aunt is very cruel to her. Her aunt treats her as less than a servant. She says to her, you are less than a servant. And we know that there was like a strict caste system where, just as we said, a servant can be in the room and not be considered personable, like a person. And so they are denied personhood. And so her aunt says to her, she says, you are less than a servant, because at least a servant earns their keep. Awful. It's this child who was tormented by her aunt and her cousin, her older cousin, and she has 3 cousins, but it's her older male cousin who's set to inherit, who is just absolutely cruel to her, hunts her down and just abuses her. And like one day she pops him back and she gets in so much trouble, and she's like thrown into a room off to the side.
I get it.
I know.
There's only so much one can take.
Well, so this story is essentially about Jane Eyre, and it's her entire life, and it's written as an autobiography. So it departs from sort of the tradition of Virginia Woolf a little bit in that way, but it follows that stream of consciousness. And it's really just her coming of age story. And it's good because I think it uses the romantic tools. It uses the romantic tools of literature, and how do I describe it? I think it works really successfully because it uses the ghosts, but it takes the ghosts and it turns them inward. They're all projections of her journey. And also in some cases, like all of the ghosts are tied to real world experiences, which is what I think makes this such a good piece of Gothic romanticism, because it's not like there is a homie, following me around. It's not like there is a horseman stalking me in the woods. This is very much like there's a ghost, except the ghost is like my grief manifesting as like the promise I was owed by my uncle who is dead, and now I am without his protection. And like I am trying to appeal to this force that is no longer there. And she invokes the memory of that force to get her aunt to behave. Her aunt then lies to the headmaster of the school that she then goes off to. And that follows her. But she's haunted, she's internal, she's really upset about it. But this man, Mr. Brocklehurst, awful, like he's the schoolmaster. Outside of him, the school is run by women. And you find this like internal sort of camaraderie. And Mrs. Temple, who she like draws a lot of her strength from and who she is inspired to be a good person for. Mrs. Temple says, I want you to defend yourself. And throughout, up to this point in the story, and I just want to give like this snapshot to communicate the themes of the story. But up to this point in the story, Jane is she has these feelings that she feels like are wrong. She's like, I feel like I should be defending myself. I feel so frustrated. I feel so pent up. And like, I should not be treated this way. This should not be happening to me. And she feels a little bit guilty for that, but also like those feelings are not considered valid by anyone else in the household. And the authority of the adults above her precede her. And so they go into rooms before her. They decide who she is before she even arrives. And she has to contend with that throughout the story. And Miss Temple is really the first like proper adult. And she's a very vengeful young girl because for good reason.
Yeah, I get it.
Like I'm at the beck and call of these adults around me, and she becomes a very vengeful young girl. But then Mrs. Temple is like, no, I trust you. I like you, and I want you to tell me how you feel. And other adults go on to vouch for her, but it's sort of this opens her up to the rest of her life. And this is a threshold, and the sort of presence of spirits and allegory, like it takes on another form always through the lens of Jane's agency, though. It reminded me a little bit of Harry Potter also. I feel like in keeping with the English tradition, this very abused young boy who goes off somewhere else and amongst these people who take care of him builds out a new sort of sense of self for him.
What is our fascination with little abused orphans that they are just so pervasive in literature?
Especially English literature. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's such an English tradition distinctly. And I think that's so fascinating. And like, I don't dislike it. Like, I think it's compelling. I like to read it. But as the story sort of progresses, I think Charlotte Bronte uses these tools in a very surgical way. And she uses the spirit of phantasm and haunting to tell a story of, yes, agency, but also the narrative of agency comes to Mr. Rochester's wife, who was locked in the attic, right? That's the big
Poor
spoiler.
girl.
That's the big
Poor
spoiler
girl.
of Jane Eyre. But she haunts the house first as a ghost. And as Jane is sort of contending with everything that's happening, she goes away and she comes back, and she goes away and she comes back, and she's just sort of grappling with mystery. And the mystery is largely internal, but it manifests. It's almost as if it manifests outside of her body, which I think makes Jane Eyre such a compelling read.
There's also like an element to, and we've talked about landed gentry, there's an element to like looking at it surface level, what a horrible thing that this man is keeping his wife in the attic.
Right.
But at the time, if you have someone who is mentally unwell, you can't just release them into society.
No.
He can't divorce her. He can't let her go off on her own.
And she had a caretaker.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that we have all of these characters where it's like, I can see how you made the decision. I don't necessarily agree with the decision, but the Bronte sisters in general really like to have a sort of commentary about the landed gentry and the boxes that those people are put in and the choices that are sort of put upon them. And
I think that's really the value in these stories that they tell, because they're these really interesting snapshots. Now, Jane Eyre is a bit of a departure because it involves, ghosts and frightfulness. But at least in Wuthering Heights, the ghost is real a little bit. Like Kathy is very much outside the window haunting Heathcliff. But in Jane Eyre, the ghosts are largely internal. And I think that's a through line with the way the Bronte sisters write, because it's like a dollhouse, and you're like opening it up and you're looking at what's going on in there, and that's what makes it so compelling. And I think that's why it persists. I think that's why it lives on through posterity. But it's not that like suspension of disbelief. Like, it's not going to draw you in a way that a sci-fi novel would, or like a romanticy novel would. But I think in that way it's one of the ones that we would consider hard literature, because it is very mundane in its way, and the complexity comes from the mundanity. And it's not like a farce, like Less by Andrew Sean Greer, one of my favorite books, is true. It's contemporary. It could happen, but it's clearly a farce. Like, it's really funny. It's outlandish. But Jane Eyre is not necessarily. It's just very introspective. And the same with that Mrs. Dalloway is, which is, again, why I feel like there's a Mrs. Dalloway and Matilda and Harry Potter, just one
But
right after
so
the
much
other.
of it is also the internal struggle.
Yeah, which is romantic, right?
Yes.
That is romantic. That's in
Yes.
the romantic toolbox. I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I liked Jane Eyre. I won't say that like I would not have read it on my own. I will say that straight up. It probably.
I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing, like when I think of Jane Eyre, I think of like, that suite of books. Like, would I have arrived at that? Probably not. Probably not.
Well, and there's a lot to be said about the fact that growing up, at least in America, the way that books are chosen for people and what people opt in and out of, so often the authors and writers and main characters, all of the storytelling devices are geared towards men and boys because we are told that they're not interested in or can't relate to stories by and about women. So we have all of these stories that we are given in school that we have Harry Potter versus Matilda, right? We have the story about the little boy and everyone's like, well, I can relate to this. And so little girls grow up reading stories about little girls and little boys and develop a greater sense of empathy because they're able to put themselves in the shoes of other people, whereas little boys are not even given the opportunity to put themselves in the shoes of other people and develop that greater sense of empathy that is so important at the developmental stage that you were reading points of view of other people.
Well, so, and to that same point, for that reason, I do think everyone should read Jane Eyre. I think they should read while they're young, though. I think they should read it while they're young. I'm not going to say, like, I'm so exceptional, I'm so different. But, like, I'm a bit of an exception to the rule because, like, you know, I was 7 years old reading Mouse. You know,
You're a whole different ballgame.
Whole other, like, I was reading The Color Purple. I was reading Beloved. Like, I was different, intense, complicated stories. But in a structured environment like school, and, you know, we're sort of introducing this to young people, I don't see why, when Jane Eyre, at least maybe the first one, where she leaves her home and goes to school, like, that's a story about a young girl. That story can be taught to children. And maybe it can be a part of the curriculum in that it comes again in middle school and it comes again in high school. And Jane Eyre can be a through line.
Well, and we have so many stories that follow characters throughout their life.
Yeah, and there's value in that.
And unfortunately, all the ones that are coming to mind right now are about little boys. But we have so many stories that you start with someone when they are 10, 11 years old, and each book you watch them grow up.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about reading them as they come out. I know that you are not the right age for this, but I was reading Harry Potter as it was coming out, and I was the same age as the characters. So there was a lot of developmental things that, like, these characters are going through this and me and my friends are going through this. Whereas books by Madeline L'Engle or Tamora Pierce had been written decades before I was born. And so I was able to read start to finish these children's to adults' lives stories very quickly. And there are things that are not thematically appropriate for all children at all points in time that if you speed read through the life of someone, you will get to parts of their life that are more difficult to understand when you're younger because you're just not there yet. And so I like the idea of teaching part of Jane Eyre to students and allowing them to deepen that appreciation and then also be like, hey, when you're older, there's more.
There's more.
The story keeps going and it gets crazier.
I think there's so much value in it. I really, really do. And so, I think everyone should read Jane Eyre. I think everyone should, like, it should be structured into curriculums. It's one of those, I haven't said that about any of the other books thus far. A lot of the books we've read thus far, I would teach to, like, a college class. But this one can be developmental. I think it has value in that. What about Wuthering Heights?
Wuthering Heights is tough. It is a tough read. I think people should read it because the popular misconception about the story is so dramatically different than what the story is that you are missing almost all of the key components.
Yeah, it's an entirely different story.
It's an entirely different story. And we continue to have new adaptations made with The White Boy of the Week that are just not true, accurate depictions of what the story is trying to tell us. So I think it is an important one to read, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the film. The film is just a very different piece of media.
Literally, right. That's how I summarize it.
It's inspired by.
Based on the novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, me as well.
This is our first episode where both authors were women.
Bless.
It's about time we got here.
I know. I've been getting the good ones, though.
You have been really loving.
Yeah, I have. Except for Legend of Sleepy Hollow. That was a man.
Yeah.
Not bad, though.
No.
Anyway, I'm Drew. I'm a sociologist.
I'm Kate. I'm a media production specialist.
And this was Everyone Should Read.
Thank you so much for listening. And while we still have you here, can you tell your librarian that we love them?